Good afternoon and welcome to Wizard's World. I am Jim Redondi. Today we welcome Faith Alchorn-Selk with American Cruise Line. Today, Faith takes us on the waterways of the United States and lets us know the advantages of small ship cruising. As a reminder, we would appreciate it if you would mute yourself so there is no background noise during the presentation. And if you have any questions, please use the chat box and we will get to your questions at the end. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the presentation. Take it away, Faith.
Thank you so much, Jim. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and share what it's like to cruise the American waters in sophisticated manner with American Cruise Lines. So as you can see, we pride ourselves on small ship cruising done perfectly. So we're going to talk through what that looks like and what you can expect to experience with American Cruise Lines. On that note of muting yourself, I am going to apologize in advance. I do have 3 large dogs and my husband will probably be coming home shortly. So in case there's barking, that is me and I do apologize, but they will be silenced quickly, I think. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get our feet wet, so to speak. So we do pride ourselves on simple sophistication aboard our ships. It really is your vacation. So while you might want to bring black tie and a ball gown, and you're welcome to, we do not require it. Even if you're dining with the captain, it's going to be relaxed elegance aboard our ships. Think of it as kind of a country club casual atmosphere. So you don't have to pack those dress up clothes unless you really want to. We do have 35 plus itineraries across the US. This surprises a lot of people. And if you're anything like me, when I was exploring the opportunity to join the company and I thought about US river cruising, of course, my mind went straight to the Mississippi. I think we're conditioned to think of the Mississippi when we think of US rivers, but as you can see from this graphic, we blanket the East Coast. We're on the Hudson River for fall color. We go east on the Ohio to Pittsburgh and east on the Cumberland all the way to Nashville with some fun experiences there. And then of course, as few as 4 nights or as many as 21 on the Mississippi. And then here in the West, in our own backyard, we're on the Columbia and Snake Rivers, as well as the Puget Sound, and we do the San Juan Islands. And what a lot of people don't realize, we are in Alaska with our small coastal cruisers, and we will be in Alaska this year. So we will talk about that in a little more detail along the way. But just an idea of all the experiences you can have in these beautiful United States. And my PowerPoint's a little slow. I apologize for that. So we're going to start on the East Coast. And what I'm giving you this afternoon is really just a taste of what we offer. We're not going to go into too many itineraries in depth because I could have you here for hours on end, and I'm sure that's not exactly what you had in mind. But this is going to give you a nice overview of what you can experience on the American waters with American Cruise Lines. As you can see in the Northeast, we're as far south as Block Island, and then we go up through Martha's Vineyard. You can experience Nantucket, Provincetown, Boston, up into Maine, all the way up to Bar Harbor. And along the way, you'll experience those iconic historical spots that we've all heard about all of our lives. And along with that, there are themes. So if you're a particular student of the American Revolution, we have a sailing for that. If you have an interest in Cape Cod, we have our new Cape Codder sailing. So there are lots of options and lots of individual itineraries within this general region. And then as you look to the left on that map graphic, you'll see that we do the Hudson River round trip New York City. And we are the only line that does more than a day trip on the Hudson. And personally, this is on my bucket list with us. Now, I may have to go as a regular passenger because it is a very popular sailing and it is of limited availability because it's for fall foliage. So we depart New York City, we take a lap around Lady Liberty, and then we head up the Hudson stopping at the president's homes along the way, the homes of authors and artists. We stop at West Point for a tour there so you can experience that. We go all the way up to Albany and Troy, and then we come back down. And as you might imagine, if you've ever seen pictures of the Hudson River Valley in the fall, it is just stunning. In fact, the light there inspired a whole school of artists called the Hudson Valley School. So of course we visit their homes. When I refer to artists, that's what I'm talking about. And were it I would bookend that trip with time in New York City, of course, to explore. Now that theater is opening back up, take in some shows, dining, that kind of fabulous stuff. Then we move on to the Southeast, where from Baltimore all the way down into Florida on what we call the Great Rivers of Florida. I think Floridians might say, what great rivers. But we ply the intracoastal waterway all the way down onto the St. Johns River in Florida and down to Lake George. All along the way on these itineraries, we are showing you those iconic islands along the way: Jekyll Island, Cumberland Island, Amelia Island. And if you happen to be a golfer, while we don't yet, I'm working on these, have any targeted golf special interest sailings, keep in mind that this part of our world is rife with amazing courses. So if that's how you'd like to spend your time ashore, you can certainly do that. We can help make arrangements. You do not have to partake of the planned shore excursions that we offer, but we do hit all of those high spots as well as those key cities of the South: Charleston, Savannah, Jacksonville, with just beautiful, beautiful scenery and a relaxed sailing that you can really enjoy. Then we move on to the Mississippi. And as you can see, New Orleans all the way up to Minneapolis, St. Paul, with a variety of itineraries in between. So as I mentioned earlier, anything from a 4-day round trip New Orleans highlights of the Mississippi, all the way to a 21-night sailing up to Minneapolis, St. Paul, with plenty of stops along the way. And there are a variety of shorter sailings in between. 7 nights, we have Music City sailings, all kinds of different opportunities. This photo you're looking at is Oak Alley Plantation. It really is a fascinating visit that we offer on this shore excursion that gives you a look at not only what it was like to live in that plantation house, but a real better understanding of what it was like for the enslaved peoples who lived there as well, shared that property and worked the land. So I found it really, really fascinating. And for me, experiencing the Mississippi, having read a lot of Mark Twain, but never having been there, despite my travels all over the world, I had not yet made it to the Mississippi. I think we hear so much about it being in the West, but until you actually experience the scale of that river and all of the actual work that is still taking place along the river, all of the barges, the commerce that moves up and down the river, and all of the history along it, it really brought it home to me. And I found it just fascinating. And I sailed New Orleans to Memphis. Now, off of the Mississippi, heading east, we pick up the Cumberland out to Nashville, a really fun city that's become such a hot domestic destination. And that would be indicative of our Music City sailing, which is now offered from Nashville to Memphis or reverse. So that's a fun sailing where you get to learn all about all the musical history along there. And then we also head east off of the Mississippi from St. Louis out to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh is truly a city in Renaissance. I happen to have a friend who moved there not long ago from the West Coast, and she's experienced a whole paradigm shift. But I see the pictures that she's sharing to social media, and boy, that city is really coming into its own. And the Ohio River has some spectacular scenery along it, and you pass through 4 different states along the way. So you really get to see a slice of Americana on that sailing as well. Then we move to the Northwest, the beautiful backyard for California, right? We're on the Columbia and Snake Rivers from Portland out to Clarkston or reverse. And we do go out to the coast to experience Astoria. And then we sail east, or obviously going the opposite direction from Clarkston toward Portland, we do still include Astoria. And along the way there, you'll experience Multnomah Falls, which is a striking waterfall right close to Portland, the Dalles, the wine region along there. And of course, this region is famous for its Lewis and Clark history. So if you have an interest in that, we do have themed sailings keying into that as well. And then round trip out of Seattle, we do the Puget Sound and the San Juan Islands. So quite an extensive visit to that part of the world. As you can see, we touch Port Angeles, Friday Harbor, Anacortes, Port Townsend, all the way down to Olympia. And when Canada will allow it, it is an option to go see Victoria, British Columbia, perhaps visit Butchart Gardens, which is just stunning. I saw it for the first time when I was 9, and that vision has never left me, I have to say. I thank my parents for taking me there. It is not required, and we do not port in Canada. So you do not have to have a passport on this sailing unless you wish to enter Canada and see Victoria on that shore excursion. But just know that when that's available, that will be an option. And then America's final frontier, some might say, stunning Alaska. As you can see from this map, normally we offer a one-way sailing Seattle to Juneau or reverse through the Inside Passage. That is not possible at the moment. As soon as it is, we will be back to doing that. But we will be in Alaska this summer. So we will be sailing round trip Juneau, 8, 11, and 15-day itineraries. So if you have dreamed of seeing Alaska, and perhaps you might want to see it this year, I do think it will be just an exceptional season to be there. Not only have they had no visitation for a year and a half, so the ports will be so happy to see visitors, but the animals will be that much more relaxed, having had so much time to themselves. I don't think they'll be used to seeing guests in their environment. And of course, unfortunately for the other lines, there will not be big ships in Alaska when we're sailing this summer. So it will truly be an exceptional experience, keeping in mind all of those factors, but I think most especially the fact that only small ships will be able to go, and those small ships will all be sailing under their normal capacity in order to make those trips. So if you've considered Alaska, this might be the ideal time to do it. And we do still have space available, although it's moving quickly, I have to say. There's a lot of enthusiasm for travel this year as folks are getting vaccinated. So we're excited to see that a lot of people are striking while the iron is hot. But we are also offering some pretty great promotions on that. So your Travel Wizards Travel Pro can help you determine what might work best for you if that's something you're interested in. So now that we've talked about where we go, how do we get you there? Well, we have the largest fleet on the American waters, and we do have the newest fleet on the American waters as well. So let's take a look at what those ships are like. We have both coastal and river classes. We're very, very proud of our new modern river ships. If you've sailed on the European waters, these ships, I should say, we have 4 in this class at this point, will remind you of what you've experienced there. These are sleek, modern, open, airy. There's a 5-story atrium in the center of each ship. I'm the daughter of an engineer, so I'm a little geeky about this bow ramp option. We, of course, have regular gangways for boarding and disembarking the ship. However, if, like in this photo, there's something great ashore that you should see, but there's no dock, we still have the option of getting you ashore safely if there's a safe place to put our bow ramp out. And I will say, when I was on the Mississippi sailing, we used this bow ramp a number of times, most notably in Natchez, Mississippi. the river was very, very high. And so we actually we didn't use the dock, we tied off to giant trees that were submerged in the river and then pulled out the bow ramp and everybody disembarked and went on their shore excursions. So these ships are really quite beautiful. And on these, every stateroom is a balcony stateroom. So those large windows you see along the bottom are all public spaces or crew space. If you sail on these ships, you will have your own private balcony. Then, nice slow PowerPoint. We do, for those folks who would like a more authentic turn of the 20th century sternwheeler experience, of course we offer those, 2 on the Mississippi and 2 on the Columbia and Snake. They are newer ships as well, with the exception of 1, which was the only ship out there in the market that met our standards for refurbishment, and she was refurbished, I believe, 2013. So they are available for those sailings, and on these you will find a little more of that late Victorian aesthetic, some bunting, as you can see on the railings there. The bow ramp is the classic dropped bow ramp, and on the interior there's a little more, shall we say, decor. It's not quite as clean and aesthetic as the modern ships, still beautiful and really evocative of those classic sailings on the rivers. Still on these ships, you will have a private balcony if you have a balcony. None of our ships has interior cabins, but these ships, along with our coastal cruisers, do offer windowed cabins. But we don't ever offer the 80 square foot Harry Potter's cupboard under the stairs interior cabin with no windows. You will always be able to see the beautiful scenery through which you are passing. And speaking of coastal cruisers, this ship looks like a private motor yacht to me. I think it's a very elegant ship. These 2 are newer ships built in 2016, 2017. As I mentioned, they do have some windowed staterooms, no interior staterooms, and you will have a private balcony if you opt for a balcony stateroom on these boats. These are the ships we use all up and down the East Coast, on the Hudson, and in the Puget Sound and San Juan Islands, as well as Alaska. They are fully stabilized for your cruising comfort, so you won't feel a lot of rocking and rolling, even though we're on open water to a certain degree with these. But as you can see from this photo, they stay close to shore, so that really is not an issue. You are always within sight of the beautiful land because that's why you're there, not just to experience the water, right? So what are some of our differences? Well, aside from the fact that you can practice your short game up here on the top deck on the putting green, you can also just relax up here with a cool drink and watch the world come to you as we sail the waterways of America. But I'm not going to read all of these to you because I hate it when someone does that to me. I will call out just a few of the key things that I think are most important in terms of points of difference for American Cruise Lines. We do have the largest, oh, this is the one that automatically moves itself. Sorry about that. We do have the largest staterooms on the American waters. They start at about 249 square feet and go up from there. We do pride ourselves on really offering an exceptional culinary experience, and we'll speak to that a little more a little later with some pretty pictures. But we do focus on providing you the culinary experience of the region through which you're traveling, because we know how important that is to the travel experience. We do have complimentary featured excursions on every sailing. We are highly inclusive, and all gratuities are included in your fare, so you will not have to worry about dealing with envelopes or extra charges at the end of your sailing. And a couple of the most popular features, we do have included complimentary beer and wine at lunch and dinner, as well as a complimentary cocktail party all evening long, every evening, to accompany that daily entertainment. So now that I'm ready, let's move forward. Remember I mentioned spacious staterooms. We do have hotel style bathrooms. They are quite generous. They're the largest shipboard bathrooms I have seen. And this would be an example of one of the typical double staterooms with a balcony, probably about 250 square feet for this stateroom. And then we also offer a selection on every ship of single occupancy staterooms. They are available with balconies. As you can see, they are a little smaller than our double occupancy staterooms, but still quite generous, starting at 149 square feet. And as I say, you do still have that balcony there. And this is because we realize that a lot of folks may want to travel solo, or they may want to travel with a friend but not share a room. So some of us at some point get beyond the whole roommate thing and we want our own space. So we do have a selection on every ship that is set aside for solo travelers, and they are priced at solo travel pricing. It's not that punishing, you have to pay double because you don't have a travel companion rate. So keep that in mind. Here's an example of those private balconies with unobstructed views. Now, if you were traveling with friends and you had adjacent cabins and you wanted to, we can take down those partitions to give you a larger veranda space that you could share. But it is nice to have the option of no one power walking through your morning mimosa. And currently, because I'm trying to remember whether this presentation actually has a separate slide with our COVID protocols, so I will call it out now. Normally, you would be able to get room service for breakfast, but as part of our COVID protocols, should you wish, you may get any meal served in your stateroom or on your balcony. So that is entirely up to you. This example is a lovely breakfast. That complimentary cocktail party I mentioned every evening, it's really not a cocktail party, it's really just cocktails all evening. So at the standard cocktail hour, a little bit before dinner time, you can go down to our lounge. You will find tray passed hors d'oeuvres, a cheese table when we're no longer in COVID. As of right now, everything is provided by a server, of course, and an open bar. Then you can go off to enjoy your dinner, come back a little bit later, and you will find that we're setting up for the evening's entertainment, and the bar remains open all evening long. Guests really seem to enjoy this. It gives them an opportunity to not only enjoy the onboard entertainment, chat with their new friends, share what they did that day, and relax with the beverage of their choice. Open seating dining aboard our ships. So remember I mentioned it's simple sophistication. So we don't lock you into a dining time and a dining table. This photo is from prior to the pandemic. So rest assured, social distancing has been taken into account, but our dining spaces are large enough to accommodate all of our guests at one time should they all suddenly decide to come dine at the same time. But what we have, rather than those assigned times, is an open dining period for each meal, a couple of hours for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. And you may come down at or over or whatever at any time during that window, sit at whatever table you wish with whomever you wish, and order what you wish from the menu. We have never had buffets aboard our ships. Everything is always cooked to order, which not only means that we can accommodate any kind of dietary restrictions or exclusions, but it also means that you're not sharing a buffet with anyone and you're enjoying the very freshest prepared to your order meal possible. We really do pride ourselves on providing that. And there are always several choices of starter, of main, and of dessert for you to enjoy. But what this means is if the folks you sat with on your very first day for dinner weren't absolutely delightful and you'd like to maybe make some different friends, you may pick up and sit with whomever you wish and make friends all over the dining room if you'd like. That regionally sourced and inspired cuisine that I mentioned, my guess is this photo's from one of our Northeast sailings with the lobster. But if you were on the Mississippi, you might see jambalaya and beignets and coffee. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, it may be salmon cooked on a plank, any of those options, because we do know how important it is to tie that culinary experience into the travel experience. So many of the features of a destination are tied to its dining. That entertainment I mentioned, we do bring well-recognized entertainers from the local ports aboard nightly for your enjoyment. And we do offer an award-winning enrichment program. And I can tell you the first time I was aboard one of our ships, it was actually my first day with the company that I flew to the East Coast to do a ship tour, a shore excursion with our travelers, and then move on to our head offices for some training. We were stopped on the ship by a passenger who said, "Do you work for American Cruise Lines?" And we said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, the onboard lecturer on this sailing has just been amazing." And we get fantastic feedback on the experts we bring aboard. They truly are passionate about the destinations we're visiting. Often they are local to those destinations. This gentleman, as you might imagine, is an expert on Lewis and Clark. So in each region, we bring aboard those experts, and they really bring the destinations to life for our travelers. I mentioned earlier, we have themed sailings. This one would be on the Columbia and Snake. Looks like a wine themed stop to me, but we do have several different options that I mentioned earlier, and your Travel Pro can help you with those if you would like a themed sailing. Our shore excursions, on every sailing, there will be featured shore excursions that are complimentary to every guest. There are also options for premium or signature shore excursions. So we'll take a quick look at what those might look like. This is beautiful Multnomah Falls in the background outside Portland. You might go to Mount St. Helens in the Pacific Northwest on a featured excursion led by a naturalist, or historic Fort Madison on the East Coast. A premium excursion that you might upgrade to could be a hike through Acadia National Park on the East Coast, or a signature excursion, the Graceland Exploration, which is a full day at Graceland, including lunch and access to collections that aren't seen by regular visitors. I talked to folks who came back from this when I was on my sailing, and they absolutely raved about it. So several different options for how you can spend your shore time. And as of right now, when people are on their shore excursions, we are keeping them in those small group bubbles. Unfortunately, unlike our normal situation, there's no free range right now in ports, but I would look forward to that changing as we move down the road and out of the pandemic. There are pre-night packages included on selected itineraries with us, and those would be everything on the Mississippi, the Columbia and Snake, and in Alaska out of Juneau. You will always have a complimentary pre-night hotel stay. That's at a premium downtown hotel in the departure destination. So you can come in early, get comfortable, experience a little bit of that departure destination, and then have a seamless transfer to the ship for your departure on your cruise. Really makes it nice. Something I'm very proud of, we do live up to our name. We are family owned. We are American built, flagged, and crewed. And this family owns everything from the shipyards in Salisbury, Maryland, all the way through the sailings. So you can rest assured that we are committed to the quality of our product because it's the family standing behind it. And we like to blow our own horn just a little bit. And Jim, if I have time, I can touch on Pearl Seas cruises. If not, we're good.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, so we have a few little awards there, but I will move along quickly to our sister company, Pearl Seas Cruises. Not a lot of people are aware of Pearl, but she is a beautiful fleet, giant fleet of one gorgeous ship, the Pearl Mist. But as I mentioned, we own those shipyards, so we could build out more ships for Pearl Seas at any time. The only real difference in Pearl Seas is that she is internationally flagged, so she has to be part of a separate company. But that means we can put her anywhere. Otherwise, it is quite consistent across the two brands. Spacious staterooms, hotel-style bathrooms. This is an example of one of our stateroom categories. You still have the private balconies, beautiful lounges fore and aft. Outdoor lounge space, of course, with a shade there. The open seating dining remains consistent. She's a little more decorated than the modern river ships, but still beautiful. That complimentary cocktail hour, the nightly entertainment, and her itineraries, of course, this includes the Panama Canal, which I have to say we were so excited about launching for January of 2020. And then, of course, that went by the boards, sadly. We can look to try to reinstate that. But for the moment, Pearl really focuses on the Northeast and the Canadian Maritimes, then down the St. Lawrence and into the Great Lakes. So that means there's a lot to offer. You can do the Canadian Maritimes and the St. Lawrence Seaway for as many as 15 nights, Portland to Toronto. Historic treasures of the East Coast, all the way from Charleston up to Halifax. This is my bucket list one for Pearl Seas, the Great Lakes and Georgian Bay for 11 nights, Toronto to Milwaukee. You get all of the Great Lakes plus Georgian Bay, which is kind of considered the Canadian own Great Lake. It includes a visit to Niagara Falls. So this is just spectacular. And we do just a Great Lakes cruise. And as you might guess from this photo, if you are not up for making the 12-hour flight to Amsterdam, but you want tulips, we can give you tulips. On the Great Lakes, there's a tulip festival, and also right in our own backyard on the Puget Sound, there is a tulip festival every year. So if you want to see tulips, we have your back. And that is Pearl Seas, and that is my presentation. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope we can look forward to welcoming you aboard either American Cruise Lines or Pearl Seas. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to help with those.
Well, Faith, I do have a question on Pearl. I'm assuming at this stage of the game, unfortunately, since the Canadian waters are closed, that ship is not able to run?
Actually, she will be sailing because she will travel with fewer than 100 passengers.
Oh, so the Canadians are allowing that?
Yes,
we
have negotiated with them. So as far as we know, as of right now, she will be going this year.
So you guys have the loophole in your back pocket.
We do. We're really fortunate. You know, there's something to be said for that small ship experience, and we can make it even smaller and more intimate, which is going to be just that much more an incredible experience aboard these ships with even fewer passengers, right? You're going to make some great relationships. What we find, Jim, and I'm kind of freehanding it here, but what we find aboard our ships is that people really make lifelong friends. People will meet aboard the ships, and then they will plan their future travels together with us. We see that a lot.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, now, but you guys have been cruising for a while now, right? You've had some cruises under your belts where the other cruise lines are kind of looking at the CDC and waiting to see when they can go. So you've been on the waterways for how long now?
Just a little over a month. We had our first sailing on March 12th, and we have more than 16 departures under our belts, safely, successfully, and with really happy passengers at this point. So it's very exciting for us. We're so happy to be back on the water. I'm very fortunate in that the company realized the opportunity, kind of the silver lining, if you will, of the downtime, and got us all out there educating people, you know, kept us on, kept producing brochures, really trying to make the most of this time to make people aware of what we have to offer in terms of domestic travel experiences. And we're really seeing it pay off in that people are so happy to get back out and explore the beautiful US.
Okay, and then the occupancy levels at this stage of the game, I know we're not sailing at 100%.
We are not, and we will not be for the foreseeable future. So rest assured, none of our departures until things have returned to whatever normal is going to be will be no more than 75%, but I can tell you that for those early birds, it's been way, way under that. Our first sailing departed with just 35 guests on a ship that normally carries over 100 passengers. And they're slowly, the numbers are climbing a little, but they're still well under half capacity. So quite an unusual experience. Maybe
really
a little too personal. Pay attention.
They probably really had hands-on crew for like their own personal butler almost.
Yeah, that's when you're really glad that gratuities are included, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I think a lot of times, when we think of American cruising, we think of the rivers, like you said, the Mississippi, and obviously over here in the Puget Sound area and the Snake, but you don't think of the coasts. And,
right.
And you got that southeastern, that Florida and up through South Carolina, and I saw Hilton Head was on there, and you mentioned golf, and
yes.
that's just great golf country there. And of course,
it is.
Really love seafood. You've got that that eastern seaboard. My daughter-in-law is from Maine, and she always says there's no such thing like a Maine lobster. If you haven't had a Maine lobster, you've never had a lobster. So
yep.
That way. And then when you think about it, when you think of Puget Sound and you think of the San Juan Islands, that's the same time zone, and it's a short flight. And I've been
and yet a world away, right?
Yes.
Killer whales breaching. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you just beat me to it because I've been up there and I've seen that, and I've been to Victoria as well, and the excursion there, and it's just it's just a beautiful part of the United States. Well, of course, Victoria's Canada, but but the San Juan Islands are just, and it's something different. It's something you really don't see in too many parts of the United States. So, and it's really close. It's really close. Now, you mentioned the refurbished ship. There's one of the 4 paddle wheels was refurbished.
Yes, the Queen of the West.
Okay, now I'm assuming that maybe the room sizes have been adjusted to the more modern.
Yes.
Or are they still going to be the stereotypical smaller room? It's going to be larger.
It is larger. Yes, we did make that change. So it had to be a ship. There were not ships out there, from my understanding. It's well before I joined the company, but from my understanding, there just were really not ships out there that met our standards, with the exception of this one vessel that we looked at and said, we can retrofit that to live up to our standards. So that was done.
And since you have your own shipyard, you can just build your new ones anyway.
Exactly. And as we chatted about, yes.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, as we chatted about briefly, just so folks know, our 4th modern vessel, her hull is in the water, and she is being fitted out, and she is going to be just stunning. The American Melody will be sailing this fall, and every one we build, they're all sister ships, but we hear from our travelers and we take that feedback, and we just kind of up our game every new ship. So that's exciting.
Very good. Well, if you have any other questions, folks, if the chat box, we're going to have Faith here for another minute or two, because I have one more question for her. So if you have anything for her, put it in the chat and we'll get to it. You had mentioned the excursions, and you have the included excursions, and then you have maybe the smaller upgrade and then the premium upgrade. Are those something that you need to do in advance, or is that something you can do while on ship? How does that work?
So I do recommend doing them in advance, especially in this current climate where there may be a little bit of limited availability in terms of keeping the group sizes small. But with the signature, that exceptional experience like the day long at Graceland, definitely book that in advance. The premium, you can probably still get into them when you're aboard, but if you have something you really want to do and you want to do it, go ahead and book it in advance and get it locked in.
You don't want to go all the way to wherever that ship is going and then be turned away because the excursion is full and you have to leave with something else. One more question did come in the chat, and it has to do with the Melody. And when and where will it be sailing this fall?
We are expecting her to sail August, And her first journey, I believe, is planned for the for the Mississippi, for the lower Mississippi.
And is that where she will be based then?
As of now, yes.
It's because do your ships actually ever move around from rivers to river? I mean,
They do.
provided the rivers are connected, yes, but I can't imagine something from the Mississippi. Does it eventually make its way to the West Coast?
Yes, we actually did that over this winter and moved we moved the Song up to the Columbia and Snake. So she made that long trek up.
Okay. Cool. Well, I do believe that's the last I see in the chat. So Faith, I do want to thank you very much for educating us on your beautiful cruise line and all the places here locally in the United States. No passport needed,
Right.
not a long flight. And we can see those tulips and cut the flying time by 2/3. You know,
Exactly.
It's just great. So thank you very much for your time today. I do appreciate it. I know our regulars on Wizards World appreciate it as well. So thank you very much for enlightening us.
Well, I so appreciate the opportunity. It's been really fun to be with you. And if I can be of any assistance for you or any of your clients, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm right here for you.
Well, we realize that questions don't answer today when I stop the recording, but questions can go on tomorrow, next week, next month. So
yep.
We'll definitely be reaching out, Faith. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it again. This is from Doris, it says, thank you, Wizards World, for this travel series. So when we appreciate, Faith, you being part of this series. So thank you very much for that. So, okay, so everybody, I wish you a good night, and we hope to see you again next Wednesday at 4:30 on Wizards World. Till then, take care and stay safe.
Keep my Martin up to date.